Awesome. Welcome once again to the 31 Days of Halloween, where we are watching a different horror movie every day through the month of October and celebrating the spooky season. Oh no, don't say words like that. You. What? I know, I get it. People are, I'll listen to anyone's argument, but will I be sold on it? I will. I can listen to that argument. Why not? How are you? But still, it's October and it's the Halloween season, and I've got my I got my candy. No one else's but mine. Getting through this effort. I'm getting through this fuck it bucket. I'm not giving any of this candy to children. Nope, it's all for me. That's right. Thank you so very much. This year we're doing an emphasis on slasher movies of the 70s and 80s. If you tuned in last year, you noticed we had a theme of vampire movies with an emphasis on Dracula movies. This year, we're doing a theme on the slasher genre of horror movies and with an emphasis on a few of the series. And such as Friday the 13th, the original Halloween movies, and what we're covering this week, um, the Nightmare on Elm Street series. And we are up to A Nightmare on Elm Street number 5. That's right. A Nightmare on Elm Street 5. The Dream Child. And I'm going to read this. You guessed it from the wiki. Is a 1989 American Gothic slasher film. What makes it Gothic? Gothic fiction, sometimes called Gothic horror, is a loose literary aesthetic of fear and haunting. The name refers to Gothic architecture of the European Middle Ages, which was the characteristics of the settings of early Gothic novels. So once again, we have, Freddy's a spirit. He's not an idea. He's a nightmare. He is an avatar of nightmares. And there's no like, it doesn't focus on any other pantheons of like, there's like a there's no like avatar of good dreams to balance Freddy. So he doesn't have like an anti Freddy to balance him, unless you want to count the building character of his mother, who's kind of appeared in parts 3 and 4, and now has a full-fledged ghost and guiding spirit to Alice. You might remember Alice from yesterday, or part 4, the Dream Master. She was the final gal in Dream Master. She was the hero that saved her boyfriend Dan, and they lived to graduate high school, which is the part of part 5. So they're seniors in high school, and they're definitely right at the beginning of the movie. The opening credits, it's over a sex scene, and then you have to realize that these are teenagers in high school. Yeah, it's their senior graduation day, sure. And I mean, the older you get, does that make me prudish, or it just makes me realize, you know, like almost the entire culture of 80s movies and comedies and horror movies revolves around like, teenage sex farce. I mean, getting laid, losing your virginity, having a great time. So in the cold open of 5 here, Alice and Dan, on their graduation day, Alice finds out she's expecting a baby. So our final gal has, it wasn't about, but that wasn't about, you know, teenage hookup culture, horniness, and like, um, and smoking weed and drinking beer. That was about, two heroes in love after the end of four. And I guess I am making that up. And once again, Alice has a group of friends. There's Greta, who's an aspiring but reluctant supermodel. There's Mark, who's a comic book fan. And there's Yvonne. She's a hospital volunteer and a swimmer. So Dan, like each act seems to have a one over the top kill scene after another. And this is what I've been saying for a couple of days now, how the Elm Street movies get progressively better than the last one. Now, story-wise, geez, it's part 5. We're doing things about the unborn baby, having, agency and even personality, even empowering. Is there a weird pro-life layer to unpack in a slasher movie? And kind of compare to 1974, only 10 years. For this was 1989. We didn't even, released August 11th of 1989. Yeah, it's 1989. This is my summer between sophomore and junior year in high school. And I'm working, I think, 88, 89. Yeah, at a tailor in downtown Boston, and I'm working that summer. It was a budget. It ran for 90 minutes. So yeah, I was 16 years old. It was 90 minutes long. It was budgeted at $8 million, and it only made $22.1 million. And it was one of the last slasher movies of the 80s. A steep decline in box office receipts from Dream Warriors and Dream Masters, while still a box office success and the highest grossing slasher film of 1989. It was mixed. It received mixed to negative reviews from the critics, and was followed by 1991's Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare. So yeah, Dan, it's like, so each of the friends, there's an attempt. And so Freddy's successful 3 out of the 4 times. So you get these four over the top kind of death scenes. So Dan becomes cybernetically infused into his motorcycle. And there's the Freddy bike, you know what I mean? So Freddy's talking to him, his face is on the gas tank. And then he's coming, and Dan's losing less and less of his humanity and gaining more and more speed. And then finally, his bike goes right into a tractor trailer. And that was Dan. And then comes Mark. And this is very much like a rock video. This is totally inspired by a-ha's Take On Me video, where the girl reading the comic book enters the comic book world and experiences the danger with her beloved hero and saves him from the pages in his peril by pulling him out of the book and into the real world where they can really be in love. Well, it's the complete opposite here. Freddy has pulled Mark, into his own comic book world, where this over-the-top action sequence. So it's not a quick kill. These are action sequences that are a few minutes long. So it's not just like you have the slash, the blood, and the gore. Now you have like really thought out character moments, suiting the character, their personal nightmare, and how Freddy is going to get the most out of this kill every time. And that's not like, I'm not empathizing with Freddy. I'm more of like, it's just like I said, like over on Jason with Friday the 13th, we're ending up in Manhattan the same year. And that same movie, it's Jason Takes Manhattan Part 8. And then there's more room for diminishing return. You literally have 3, they have 3 movies on Elm Street. So Freddy has pulled, was it Mark? Is it, which one is this? Mark Gray. Yeah. So Mark is fighting a, like, a superhero, super villain version of Freddy, becomes his own superhero. It's kind of reminiscent of the boy in the wheelchair back in part 3 in Dream Warrior. The one who could walk in his dreams, and he was a magician, and it was very Dungeons and Dragons. But then, so when Freddy attempts to kill Yvonne, Yvonne has, like, is a diver, so she's in the pool and she's training and she's diving, and she keeps falling and falling, which is really good because that really gives us a shared nightmare experience that we can all empathize with. And eventually, it becomes like she realizes she didn't jump into the pool. She's jumped from the top of some kind of high rise, and she's about to hit the pavement, and there's a small puddle there, and then she enters the puddle and then enters the dream hellscape of Freddy. But she gets out, and she's not the final gal, because Alice ends up winning, and Alice ends up being the final gal 2 movies in a row, by the way. Alice is the hero here, but Yvonne survives, yes, but their friend Greta doesn't. And it's probably weird too when it comes to eating disorders and beauty standards. And so you had Greta, who has another, inspired by like MTV and rock videos, has to eat herself and keep eating and eating until it's a gluttony nightmare. And she's at this formal occasion, and she keeps feeding and feeding, and everyone keeps laughing at her becoming more and more distressed and distressed, and until she explodes. So, but that comes from MTV as well. Tom Petty's "Don't Come Around Here No More" with Alice in Wonderland and the cake, if you remember that. Dream nightmare like kind of visual indeed. But then we come to the end, and we've got the team up of Alice, her unborn child, Jacob, and then the ghost of Freddy's mother, Sister Amanda Kruger, who was locked in with 100 maniacs over a weekend, and why Freddy is the bastard of 100 maniacs. And so Freddy gets destroyed, and Alice is going to have the baby, and they're like, there's a picnic scene with the baby and Yvonne, and in the background you see the girls dressed in white jumping rope and starting the familiar Freddy nursery rhyme. 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. 3, 4, you better lock your door. I'm just kidding. He's scared. Don't be. You got electric powers. Pika could take Freddy in a fair and especially in an unfair fight. I taught Pika some city moves. You live in a city, kid. But yeah, was it a good movie? Yes, it was. It was entertaining. It was stupid. It was completely 90 minutes of escapism. I didn't think... It's kind of like golf. I remember the only time I went out golfing ever. It was pretty fun. 18 holes, buddies. I parred on a 5, and that happened. And but I realized on the way home, I didn't think about anything about that damn ball for 3 straight hours. I completely zoned out of the world. And you know what? Same here with this foolishness. I mean, it was just pure escapism. There's nothing to read into here, unless it's, there could be something to read into it. I mean, I began to say about Jacob, the unborn fetus, having agency, having a character, having duties and a mission, being vulnerable and being used as leverage and the power play between Freddy and Alice, and Freddy and Alice and Freddy's mother as well. You know, yeah. I mean, is there a pro-life angle smuggled, baked into this movie that's not quite overt? It's not nailing shit on the head. I remember, like, we were talking about it. 1974's Black Christmas. We're going to talk about that movie very shortly. We need to, because it is one of the, it might be the grandmother of the 70s slasher movies. I mean, did slasher movies really begin in 1960, way back with Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho? May have. I could go either way on this. But that movie was in the Hays Code. The 70 slasher movies are after the Hays Code and in the lettered rating system. So it has now it's got a much different aesthetic, and it's also being produced and made by a new generation of filmmakers as well of the early 70s. The result of the new Hollywood. You know, I love talking about movies. I really do. Best death scene in this. Oh wow! Out of all of these all of these over the top scenes. Now here we go. Here's Mark in his superhero persona with his mega guns, and he's facing down Freddy, and he's gonna shoot him up, shoot him up, shoot him up. You know, gun violence, sure, but he's part like Punisher, or you know, and or the Shadow, or something like that. You know, but was it decent? Yeah, it was a decent movie. You could just it's a Freddy movie. That's all there is to it. There's nothing much. It was really enjoyable, and the special effects, they really get better and better every year in every movie, until it gives way to it must give way to complete CGI. I haven't seen Freddy versus Jason yet, so we will see. But still, Robert Englund is just, the way he embraces this bad guy. He relishes this role. And, man, geez, if I ever get to meet him at a con, that would be great. I would love that. And, but yeah, this has been the 31 days of Halloween. And we've been talking about A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child from 1989. I'm 16 years old when I watched this. I'm in high school. I'm of that ripe age that I'm just right for Freddy Krueger to kill me, right? Maybe, huh? Oh boy. Excuse me. I didn't get a bless you out of you. Thank you, Pika. He's very soft spoken. He's you might not hear what he's saying. It's usually Pika, Pikachu, and do you speak Pika? I can speak Pokey. Pokemon. I can speak Pokemon. But yeah, but it's kind of like the Aha video. He turns Mark into paper and then slowly starts slashing him apart. And it's just this really well orchestrated scene. I've had it on slow mo because I wanted to avoid any kind of, hi there, strikes and policies and boops and bings and stuff like that. But yeah, what best death scene? I love the motorcycle one. I like this one a lot too. I did not like the gluttony one. That's my least favorite one. But I did like the whole motorcycle one. And this one was this is just really well done. Pretty good special effects for its day. But Yvonne, I know she survived hers, but her nightmare itself was very nightmarish and something very common. Falling. Yeah. And see, paper mark. And guess scissors beats paper, huh? There's no more rock. So he got slashed and all of his colors draining out, which is really fun. And this has got to be like early computer effects. Meeting conventional special effects and just lighting, and camera work. I love movies, and it's just, yeah, these movies just it's not, this wasn't terrible, and it wasn't, you know, it wasn't a waste of time. It was a nice use of escapism, and there's very few things to think about in this movie. I know I made the whole thing about Alice in pro life. I think it's interesting, especially because, once again, yeah, Black Christmas, 1974. I mean, the lead, Olivia Hussey, her motivation is, this is her sorority house, and in the early 70s, and there's a killer in the house, and he's picking off the girls one by one, and then there's a final girl. This is why it's the grandmother of modern slasher movies, made in 1974, along with the granddaddy, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. There were two notable slasher movies that year, and inspired. So those two movies are often quoted almost in every wiki that I read. I'm always seeing Black Christmas, Black Christmas. So I decided to do something about it and watch it and include it, because, I mean, that's the whole reason I went back and watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre as well. How can we be talking about slasher movies without fairly comparing him to the progenitors, their archetype, their prototype? So in Black Christmas, Olivia Hussey's character, she's a college woman, and she's like, no, I'm pregnant, and I'm getting it. I'm using my choice. I'm getting it taken care of, and the boyfriend is like, no, we will get married, and you're going to have this baby, and she's not having it, and that's like, but it's part of the baked-in feminism of the early 70s and campus life, and where that came from, and then this whole, maybe this faceless authority of toxic masculinity, that it picks off the girls one by one. I don't know, there's just something to it, but there was a very pro-choice message in 1974's Black Christmas. And I'm thinking 15 years later, in real time, in 1989, is A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child, some kind of thematic balance in response to that, with a pro-life final gal choosing kind of thing. I don't know, but I'm here for these conversations. I like that. You can use lenses, no pun, we can use lenses in theory in film, and critical theory kind of comes from film in a way too. I mean, just to use things using lenses and being like, seen through this particular lens, can we pick up these aspects, and can we see them better? And there are many lenses to see a simple film through. These things are made by artists, writers, visionaries, directors, set designers, costume creators, special effects artists, actors and actresses. This collaborative effect, this wonderful. I love talking about movies, and thank you for coming on this journey with us. We're doing the 31 days of Halloween. We are doing a different horror movie every day, all month long in October, to celebrate this Halloween season. That's right. No candy for children. It's all mine. I'm evil. Isn't that true? I know, huh? Like and subscribe. Put on those notifications. Don't miss a show. 6 p.m. These movie videos drop. We also talk about comic books at 3 p.m. U.S. Eastern Daily. We talk about spirituality and purpose and gratitude. I'm an ordained minister, a spiritual guy. I'm also a professional chef. We talk a lot about cooking. And I'm going to leave the playlist right over here for last year's 31 Days of Halloween. If you need some suggestions for this year's list, you know what I mean? I hope you're doing it too, and share in the comment section what horror movies are you watching for your 31 Days of Halloween. We will see you in that dark movie theater. Save me a seat next to you.